My first out-of-state property was a disaster. My property manager had charged me $400 for a water heater I didn't even need, and the tenant stopped paying rent for 2 months before I even found out. And here I was stuck like 1,000 miles away, wondering what the heck I was doing. That was about 9 years ago, and since then, I've invested in 34 states. I've spent over $1 million testing what worked, and I've figured out exactly what went wrong and how to make sure it never happens to me again. And so in this video, I'm gonna walk you through the 5 things you need to get right before you buy a single property out of state. And if you skip any one of these, you're gonna have problems. So let's get started with the most important one. Here's the reality. If you live in California or New York or Seattle or Miami or any expensive metro for that matter, the numbers are probably not gonna work in your backyard for a rental, right? A house that costs like $600,000 might only rent for like $2,500 a month. So after the mortgage and the taxes and the insurance and the maintenance, you're losing money every single month. But 2 states over, that same $2,500 rent comes in from a house that only costs like $180,000. And now instead of losing money, you're cash flowing $300, $400, $500 per month. And these aren't made up examples. That's just the math. Once you see this, you can't unsee it. Guys, if you don't know me, my name is Keith. I'm with REI Automated. I've been investing for over 9 years across 34 states. I spent over $1 million testing every marketing channel you can think of. And I say that not to brag. I say that because what I'm about to teach you comes from making just about every mistake in the book so that you don't have to. And at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you the one thing that I check before I invest in any new market. And it is the single biggest predictor of whether a deal will work or if it's gonna blow up in your face. But first, before we get to that, let's talk about why you should even consider this. Here's what we're covering. The first thing is gonna be, Keith, why invest out of state in the first place? Number 2 is how to pick the right market. I have 5 simple criteria. Number 3 is how to build your remote team. And this is where like 90% of people mess up. Number 4 is how to do due diligence when you can't drive the property. And finally, number 5, the technology that makes all of this possible from your couch. So let's go. Let's put this into really simple terms, right? There's really only 3 reasons that you need to invest out of state. Number 1 is your local market is too expensive. So if your median home price in your city is like $500,000 or more, the rent is probably not gonna cover your costs. So I used to live in Hawaii. This was the case there. You would be buying a house that loses money from day one, right? That's not investing, that's just gambling and hoping on the value of the property appreciating over time. So that's the first reason. The second reason why you would consider doing this is because better cash flow exists in different markets. In some cities, there is a huge gap between what the property costs and what it rents for. These are amazing rental cities. Indianapolis, Cleveland, Birmingham, Memphis, right? Homes are costing $150,000, $200,000, $250,000, but they're renting like $1,200 to $1,800 a month. That math works really good. Reason number 3 is diversification. If your properties are all in one city and the biggest employer leaves that town, you're in trouble, right? So having properties in 2 or 3 different markets means that one bad local event doesn't wipe you clean out. Now, if you're thinking, Keith, that sounds great, but how am I supposed to manage these houses that I've never seen before? That's a fair question. I get asked all the time, and that brings us to the most important part of this entire video, which is picking a market. That's really the first decision that you need to make, right? Most people get this wrong because they're chasing the cheapest properties. Cheap doesn't mean good, okay? Some cities have a low price for a reason because they have high crime, they have shrinking population, they don't have jobs, and those properties are cheap because nobody wants to freaking live there. And if nobody wants to live there, then nobody wants to rent there either. And so here are the 5 things that I look for before I invest a single dollar in a new market. I'm in 55 metros across the nation right now. The first thing that I filter by is population growth. Is the city growing or is it shrinking? If people are leaving, then property values are going to drop and you're going to have vacancies. I want cities where people are moving to, not away from. And you can check this in 30 seconds. You can Google, the Census Bureau, go on their website, search that. It's called an MSA, a Metropolitan Statistical Area, and look up year over year change. They often have decade over decade changes, right? If it's positive, it's a good sign. If it's negative or if it's flat for several years in a row, you should move on. My second filter is job growth. And really more importantly, I should have put this as job diversity, right? I don't want a city that depends on one company or even one industry. Amazon, for example, if that company leaves that town, that whole market tanks. I want cities with healthcare and tech and automotive and logistics and education and government jobs, like multiple engines, not just one. So think of it this way. I used to be in the Marines, right? So if a city has a military installation and they have a hospital and they have a university and they have, some sort of tech sector or something like that, that's 4 different reasons why folks are going to live there. One of them can shrink and the city is still going to survive just fine. That's why it's important. Filter number 3, I do this every single time, is landlord-friendly laws. And this one matters more than what most people think, because in some states, if a tenant stops paying rent, you can start the eviction process and have them out in just a few weeks. In other states, it can take 6 months, a year, 2 years. California, New York, New Jersey, my least favorite, Illinois. They're basically communists up there. Those eviction timelines will destroy your cash flow. Texas, Florida, Georgia, Ohio, Indiana, much faster. Know the rules before you start playing the game, before you buy a house. My 4th filter is metropolitan size. I want a metro that has at least 500,000 people. Why? Because you need competition in the property management market. If there's only one property manager in town and they suck, then you're stuck. In a bigger metro, you can fire the one that you have and you can hire another this week, right? And that flexibility is everything. Filter number 5 is the rent to price ratio. So you should take the monthly rent and then divide it by the purchase price of the property. If you get 1%, that's kind of like the going rate. Really, it could even be a little bit less. It could be like 0.7%. If you get 0.7% or higher, the numbers will probably work. If it's below 0.5%, it's gonna be really hard to cash flow. So quick example, if a house is $180,000 and it rents for $1,400, so 1,400 divided by 180, that's 0.78%. Good, this passes the test. If a house costs $500,000 and it only rents for $2,200, $2,200 divided by 500,000 is 0.44. That fails. See how easy that is? How fast that is? So if a market passes all 5 filters, it goes on my short list. And if it fails even one of them, I'm going to move on, right? There's hundreds of markets out there. So don't force a bad one to work. I'm going to be completely honest with you right now. This next section is the whole video. Okay? Everything else that I've said matters, certainly. But if you get this wrong, none of it saves you. The number 1 most important reason, it's the reason why like all out-of-state investors fail, it's because they have poor property management, okay? It's not bad markets. It's not because they bought a bad house. It's because they have bad people managing those properties. I've heard the horror stories. You've heard the horror stories. These property managers charging hundreds or thousands of dollars for repairs that never happened. They're pocketing security deposits. They're placing tenants in your house without even looking at a background check, letting a property sit for months vacant without telling the owner. Stuff is real. And it happens most often to the out-of-state investors because they can't pop in and check in on things. So how do you protect yourself? Well, you build your team before you buy the property. And here's exactly who you need. And I'll even tell you how to find them. Number 1, most importantly, your property manager. This is the most important hire you will ever make in real estate, in the rental sector, right? I want you to at least interview 3 companies, at least. Ask how many doors they manage. Ask what their eviction process looks like. Ask what happens when a tenant calls them at 2 o'clock with a broken pipe. Ask for references from other out-of-state investors, not local, out-of-state investors. There's a big difference. And some red flags to look for here is if they don't return calls within 24 hours, they can't give you references. If they charge a bunch of hidden fees on top of their management fee, they don't have a online portal where you can see financials in real time. Any one of those is a deal breaker for me. Move on. Number 2 is an investor-friendly real estate agent. Not every realtor is real estate investor friendly. You want somebody who can speak your language. We want them to understand what is cash on cash return. We want them to know the neighborhood. We want them to tell us which streets to avoid and why. So How you find them is ask your property manager for a referral. They should be working together all the time. And then the third person that you should place on your team is a reliable contractor and even a solid home inspector, right? So by the way, your property manager should have contractors that they already work with all the time, but get your own inspector for the purchase. Here's a trick that nobody tells you. Your first hire leads to your second hire, right? A good property manager will introduce you to a good agent, and then the good agent will introduce you to the good contractor. And the whole team builds from this first relationship that you have with the property management company. So spend the most amount of time getting the property manager right. I am blessed with amazing property managers. Everything else flows from there, right? It's amazing. You will set yourself up for success or set yourself up for failure, dependent on who you choose for the property manager. All right, now let's talk about actually buying a property that you've never walked through. This is the part that scares people the most. Honestly, it scared me for the first couple of times too. But here's what I learned. Again, I do this across 55 metropolitan cities in 34 different states. You do not need to visit the property in person. I know that sounds crazy. Hear me out. You're not a home inspector. Who are you that you think that you can walk through this house and determine every single little thing that's wrong? Now, let the home inspector be nitpicky, right? So the step one, before you even get the home inspector, get a video walkthrough from your agent, not photos, a video. Have your agent walk through the property, either on a video call with you or recording everything, right? Tell them to open up the closet, tell them to check under the sink, show you the roof, show you, the foundation, the water heater, and the HVAC and the electrical panel. And if they're lazy and they don't want to do this, then go find yourself a different agent. Simple. And listen, pay them $100, pay them $50, whatever. They're going to spend an hour doing this thing, and then they got to upload the video and send it to you. After you have this, then step two is to hire a professional inspector. Full inspection with a written report. This is not optional, okay? This is not negotiable. Every single time you take title to a house, this home inspection is going to cost $350, $500, right? But it will save you $30,000 in surprises sometimes. Now that you have the video walkthrough, now that you have the home inspection, step three is research the neighborhood online. Google Street View, crime mapping websites, join the local Facebook groups, drive the neighborhood on Google Maps. Look at the surrounding houses. Are they well maintained, or are there cars on blocks in the yard? I call it a rim rate. Not to get too weird on this video, but you know the big rims that I'm talking about on certain vehicles? What's the rim rate on the block? Is there a school nearby? Or is there a junkyard, right? You can learn a lot from your laptop. Then step four is verify the rent, okay? Do not ever trust the seller's numbers. Don't even trust Zillow's, whatever it's called, rentals estimate. It's garbage, okay? It's absolutely asinine. Do not trust those numbers. Call these property managers. Remember, you're gonna interview at least 3 property managers in that area. So ask them, hey, what would this property rent for? And if all 3 of them say, roughly the same number, you have your answer. Now, should you ever visit the market in person? Yeah, I'd recommend visiting your first market at least once, ideally before you close on your first deal, right? Meet your property manager, shake their hand face to face, belly to belly, kneecap to kneecap, build the relationship, drive the neighborhoods, get a feel for the city. After that, you probably don't need to go to the house or the city unless something major comes up. And that's the beauty of having a team that you trust, right? Now, here's where this really gets cool. The reason why out-of-state investing works today when it didn't 20 years ago is technology, right? The tools we have now is what makes it possible to manage a property 1,000 miles away almost as easily as one that's like literally right down the street. I'm going to share with you my tech stack, okay? Here's what I use for all of this out-of-state investing. Number one is I have a CRM to track my leads, my deals, and my follow-ups. If you don't have one, go to my website, REI Automated. We'll hook you up. Having a CRM is paramount. It's the most important thing. Second, a property management portal. I want to see everything. I want to be able to log into a property management portal. I want to see the rent payments. I want to see the maintenance requests. I want to see financial statements in real time. I use Google a lot, Google Maps, Google Street View for the neighborhood research. Video calling, I use Zoom for walkthroughs, contractor check-ins. It's all recorded. It's great. Obviously, you're going to need money stuff, right? So having a bank account dedicated to each property so that money never gets commingled or mixed up. And then I think the last thing I have is a spreadsheet to track my cash flow across each market on each property. That's it. You don't need any fancy software. You don't need any expensive subscriptions. It's all pretty basic stuff. You just need a system that lets you see what's happening in each property without you having to get on a plane. And honestly, that's, we're having a property management portal where you can log in and see these when rent is coming in, what maintenance requests have been put in and how much it's going to cost, right? Like, that's more visibility than most local landlords who manage their own properties have. Think about that. The out-of-state investor with a good property manager and a portal often has more information than the guy who lives 3 blocks away and self-manages his property. No, remember at the beginning of the video, and I told you that there's one thing that I check before I invest in any new market. It's the most important thing. Here it is. I look at the property manager landscape. I don't care how cheap the houses are. I don't care how high the rent is. If I can't find at least 2 or 3 solid property management companies in that market, I don't invest there, period. Because at the end of the day, you're not buying a property, you're buying a team, right? And that property is just the vehicle, but that team is the one they're the engine. They're the one who's running that vehicle. So here's what I want you to do right now. Go pick one market that passes those 5 filters I gave you earlier in the video: population, growth, job diversity, landlord-friendly laws, metro size over 500,000 in a rent to price ratio that's over 0.7, ideally over 1%. And then start interviewing property managers. That's it. It's the first step. Don't overthink it. Don't wait for the perfect time. Just start. If you want to learn more about how I find deals in markets across the country, I've got a video right here that walks you through it. I'll see you over there.